So today I want to talk about why we trim and how to trim. So one reason is to have a line that we can stop a decoration. You see on that, the line stops at the foot ring. We can have a place for the glaze to stop running, so it can be a collection point to stop a piece from sticking to the shelf. As in that case, you can actually see where it ran off because there's no foot ring. It can be a place to hold on to a piece so you're not getting your fingers all the way up onto the side of the pot. And it could be a way to separate the piece from what it's sitting on so that it's not just glaze all the way down to the foot ring. So, how to trim? Well, there are a few standard methods. This is a beginning video, for beginners, so we're not going to go through all the crappy tools that are out there. We're going to hit basically how to tap in the middle, how to bump in the middle, and how to place it in the middle. So I will do tapping first because the camera angle seems to look better for tapping for right now. So main thing is, one, have a bat that's smooth and have a bat that's particularly round and flat. So I usually work on a plastic bat because a plastic bat doesn't need to be wet. If you're working on masonite, either have one that's already damp, or when you're done centering you'll need to dampen it before you put the wads on. So to get it in the middle, I will do tapping first. I'm going to tap at a pretty consistent pace. I don't want to wait till it comes around and tap. I'm not going to wait for it to get off and then tap it. What I will do is tap at a constant until it goes into the middle. Now as I tap, I'm going to tap lighter and lighter. The way to practice how hard to tap is to put it on one side of the wheel and tap it. You want it to move about a 1/16 to an 1/8 of an inch. If you're hitting it and it's moving a 1/2 inch, you're hitting it too hard. If you're hitting it and it's not moving, then it's not going to do anything while it's spinning either. So one of the major dumb things people do on this is expect to hit it right when it's off. So as it comes around, they're going to hit it, hopefully tap it enough that it goes in the middle. That takes a lot of work, and I'm sure there are people that can do it, but for a beginner, you're not going to want to try that. You're going to be more successful tapping lighter and lighter until it goes into the middle. My left hand is on the opposite side, just tickling the pot. If the pot stops spinning, it means you're holding it too hard and it's not going to go anywhere close to the center because you're stopping it. I'm going to tap, 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 lighter and lighter and lighter, and that'll go into the middle. What I'm most concerned about is this edge here. Is this in the middle? Down here, if your piece is perfectly level, it'll also be in the middle. But this is the part that we're going to trim, so that's the important part. So that's tapping. Placing is as it's coming around, I'm going to stop the wheel when it touches my thumbs, and I'm going to move it away. I'm going to do that until it's in the middle. And I'm going to move the camera. Alright, so another method is bumping. And bumping is the same thing as tapping with your hand, except I'm going to be pushing with my thumbs. It's a little bit harder to move your thumbs in a slight twitch. And just like my left hand was the opposite side over here when I was tapping, I'm going to move my fingers up here and they're going to do the tickling while my thumbs bump. That's going to prevent it if I bump too hard that my piece doesn't fly off. Alright, so I've got my thumbs, I'm going to bump, 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 lighter and lighter until it goes into the middle. That's what we're shooting for. So again, if it's off, it's just little bumps with my thumbs, my fingers are touching, bump, 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 bump. And I'm watching this. And the last way to center is to bump and move it. So, or to touch it and move it. So I'm going to let my thumbs hit, and when my thumbs hit, I'm going to stop the wheel, I'm going to move it away from that point. I'm going to do that again. Thumbs hit there. Stop the wheel, move it away. I'm going to do that until it's in the middle. It takes longer to do it that way. If I'm just bumping with my thumbs, it can take me just a couple rotations to get it in the middle. Whereas the stopping and bumping, or the stopping and moving it, can take, many more minutes. Those are the three ways. Those are the three ways that you can get it in the middle. Next part is actually trimming the piece. This piece is a tad bit dry, but I don't have any other pots to do this on today. And my students wanted a video. So you want to be trimming at slightly wetter. This is a little past leather hard. It's kind of stiff. So I'm going to take my little hot dogs of clay. I'm going to push down on the top of the piece. I'm going to push the hot dog against the wheel. Again, this is for, beginners. This isn't going to be, your production potters aren't going to be using hot dogs of clay to hold down every piece. They're going to have themselves a rubberized chuck, or they're going to learn how to just wet the wheel and tap it on. But as a beginner, you're going to probably want to use little lugs of clay. Check to make sure it's still in the middle. In your beginner toolkit, you will have a bird head tool and a double-ended loopy tool. So the double-ended loopy tool is used to take off the majority of the clay on the outside of the pot. We start with the round side as an extension of your finger. You want enough of the loop sticking out that the clay can come off of that, and I have it pressed into the palm of my hand. I'm going to put my left hand on top of the pot and my thumb touching the tool so that everything's working together. I'm going to put the wheel at a speed that the pieces will actually come off the pot. What I don't want is it going so slow that the pieces land on the wheel and just stay there. I want everything to kind of come off the wheel and leave it nice and clean so I can see what's going on. But also, going fast helps you make a more even cut. Now, if you notice right now that your pot is not centered, guess what you would need to do? Stop and recenter it. Now, I don't have a preference on going up or down or up. One major thing is, though, that you do not trim all the way down to your wads. If you trim all the way down to the wads, then you're not able to blend it together. A couple other reasons that I'm thinking about why we trim. If you suck at throwing, trimming can make a sucky bowl or another pot at least lighter, so you can pretend like you know what you're doing. Now, that doesn't mean you shouldn't practice to get better at throwing. But if you wanted to cover it up for a Christmas present for Grandma, this is when you'd do it. Like I said, my pot's a little dry. If your pot hums like that, you're probably trimming too dry. Ugh. To get rid of that, you gotta push harder. I'm trying to blend that in, so I don't want to push too hard, which is why it's going to do a lot of squeaking. You notice I left clay up here for my foot ring. I'll clean that up with my square end of my double-ended loop tool. But before I do that, the outside of my pot, I'm going to clean up with my flexible metal rib of death again. You want a clean edge, at least on one side. I'm going to hold it so that it's cutting clay away. And I will not be able to get, if I do it over here, let's see. You can actually see the pieces getting cut off. So that's evening up that surface even more. So I get a nice smooth surface. If you wanted that country bumpkin sort of throw rings on it, you could leave your double-ended loop tool rings on it, but for me, I like a smooth surface. Then I'm actually going to go back and I'll hit it with the flat part of the rib contoured to the surface, and that'll actually burnish it up all nice and shiny. Then on the inside of the foot ring, we're going to go back to our double-ended loopy tool, and we're going to use the square end. So we're going to hold it a little bit differently. I'm going to hold it so it's underneath my 4 fingers, and it's tilted so that I'm hitting with the tip of it. That's seeable if I turn around, turn here a little bit. So I'm going to hold it so that the point is going to be what's digging into the clay. I'm going to start in the middle. I'm going to push down, and I'm going to move towards 3 o'clock. I do not want to go all the way out to the edge of my foot ring. I'm going to go back now with the flat side and clean that up. When I go back with my flat side, I'm holding it more like a pencil. And I will then clean up this inside edge, and I will clean up my outside edge and round that over. Now if you notice, the outside of my foot ring and my inside of my foot ring do not match up. I don't know if they can see that on camera, but they don't. So I know there's more clay here on the inside of that foot ring to trim away. Especially on the bottom of a bowl. you know that the inside of the bowl, if you've made a good bowl, is not flat. It's rounded. So at the bottom of the bowl should also be rounded. Now on something like this, that's like a cereal soupy kind of bowl. It's not something that's going to be, you know, on a pedestal. But I'm rounding off this foot ring so it's nice and smooth. It means less chips later on when it's finished. And I'll even hit it with my metal rib to make it nice and shiny. Trim that, I'll hit that as well. Now we're pretty much done. The last thing is to sign the piece. Now, I absolutely hate signatures made with needle tools. It's just a pet peeve of mine. So I've got little ball stylus. So when I put my name on, all those little chunks aren't, you know, little scratchy marks, and they just wipe right off. The last thing as a beginner you should do is check to make sure that the middle point is lower than your foot ring. So you can use the flat end, the flat edge of your flexible metal rib of death. Just put it on your foot ring, and if it touches in the middle, there's not a gap underneath there. You need to trim that middle down more, else your bowl will spin, and that's really bad. You don't want a bad spinning bowl. And there we go. We have why we trim a foot ring the easy way. Outtakes at the end of this, as you can see my rim. Tell if it's in the middle is turn the wheel on as fast as it will go. If it flies off, it was not my metal. Those are the three important ways of, those